am super excited today to be unboxing the Honeycomb Alpha Yoke and the Honeycomb Bravo Throttle quadrant, which I have decided to use to upgrade my existing Thrustmaster HOTAS. Actually, let's start that again. Included in the Alpha box is the small communication cable that runs between the handle and the base itself, a mounting plate, and 2 clamps. For the Bravo, we have the mounting plate, the 2 clamps, the base unit, and 2 different boxes. These boxes themselves include 2 different sets of attachments that can fit on each of the throttle quadrants that allows you to configure the throttle based on the type of aircraft you are flying. Obviously, there's a lot of plastic here, and that's probably to be expected with any kind of build in this price point, but everything still feels really good, even as I kind of clumsily manhandle it as I'm unboxing it, and no real red flags are going up, which is good. I feel pretty confident right now that this isn't all going to fall apart on its maiden flight. And our first big problem. These clamps that it's shipped with don't seem to fit my hobby desk, which I've been using as a PC table. So I did some looking around. I was hoping that just some generic C clamps would do the job, but looking more closely at how these are designed, I went ahead and ordered the extra thick clamps that are sold by Honeycomb. New clamps have arrived and remarkably look exactly like the other ones, albeit thicker, which is exactly what I needed. It doesn't take long to get these to hold the mounting plates down onto my desk nice and securely. Installation here is fairly basic. You slide the peripheral onto the mounting plate, and then there's 2 little wheels at the back that tighten legs to hold it and stop it moving backwards and forwards as you pull and push on the peripherals. So now that I'm finally able to get going with this thing, here's some initial thoughts right out the box. Starting with the yoke. A quick play with some of the buttons that are on the yoke, specifically on the handle. They feel great. There are buttons that can be used to control the rudders, which I won't need and will probably unmap because I have rudder pedals. And there are buttons for controlling the trim, which are made redundant by a trim wheel on the Bravo throttle quadrant. But just having these here and feeling how responsive they are, they feel really good. There's also a series of light switches here, and I'm really excited to have these. A lot of different aircraft have the lights in a lot of different places, and sometimes when you are looking for these, for instance, you coming up on approach, you need to get your lights on before you drop below a specific descent. It can be just a hassle looking for where those light switches are, especially for me, because I'm not a pilot, and B, I fly quite a few different aircraft within the game. They're all in different places. So having a bunch of mapped dedicated buttons that are physically going to be in the same place next to the yoke, I'm super excited for this. I can't wait to try these out. Taking a look at the throttle quadrant now. There's actually quite a lot to unpack here. This thing can be configured to look like any number of aircraft. And the reason I picked the Bravo by Honeycomb over competitive products was the fact that you had 6 different throttles to configure, and it comes, as you can see, with a whole bunch of attachments so that you can configure this for any type of aircraft, from single engines all the way up to 4-engine jets like the 747. In terms of how you configure these, the documentation included has a breakdown of how the default controls will map to the aircraft based on the class of aircraft, such as single throttle controllers versus more complex general aviation and going up to commercial jets. So they give you everything you need to know what to do, but we'll be taking a closer look at that as I get more hands-on with it. The landing gear controls feel really great as well. The placement I have right now for where everything is, it's not ideal. I've got the Bravo too close to the yoke from the Alpha, so reaching my hand around to get to where the landing gear control is a bit problematic, but I will be addressing this, and I'll talk about that in a minute. One thing I was worried about with the flap toggle was whether or not it would feel flimsy, and this doesn't feel flimsy at all. I feel good that I'm going to be able to use this toggle for a huge number of flights moving forward. Next up, you can see a bank of 6 toggle buttons. These are a mystery because they're not marked, and obviously the intent is that they can be mapped to different things on different aircraft, depending on what buttons that aircraft has in real life. Figuring out what these are mapped to in the flight simulator was a bit of trial and error. I found myself in the configuration section going back and forth, clicking these to see which button actuator was labeled, and then going back to figure out how the game had mapped these by default. And what I've wound up doing is ignoring a lot of that default mapping, and I've gone into the aircraft I fly the most commonly, the Grand Cessna, the Cirrus Vision Jet, etc., and kind of creating a mapping that feels more intuitive to me. Finally, we've got the controls for the Autopilot, and I really like these. So we've got 2 dials. The left dial refers to different aspects of elements that are often controlled with their own dial on dedicated autopilot systems, such as the altitude, the heading, the vertical speed, and so on and so forth. So you can set this to whatever you want, and then the rightmost dial will increase or decrease that value. So instead of having a bunch of different dials, you need to sort of set which of these values you want to change with the leftmost dial, and then you can go ahead and start changing with the rightmost dial. The remaining buttons are toggle buttons based on modes within an autopilot, and so far it looks like this covers all of the options I've come across in the aircraft I fly, including things like heading mode, nav mode, setting the altitude, setting the vertical speed, etc., etc. And finally, there's a toggle just for the autopilot itself, which is all standard. So I'm super excited to have these all in one place. Upon getting everything connected, I am excited to jump into the sim. I fire up free flight, launch with the Cirrus Jet into a random airport nearby, and the game crashes. Oh boy. Actually, the whole PC crashed. So I restart, jump back in, same thing happens again. I noticed this time, right before the game starts to crash, the eye tracker is acting weirdly sluggish. Now, I wasn't sure if this was because of the large form factor of the peripherals being in proximity to the sensor, but on a suspicion that it's something to do with the Tobii, I disconnect the Tobii, fire everything back up, and I am back up and running. I'll troubleshoot the Tobii later. Maybe I just need to reinstall the drivers. First thing I noticed is that this is really smooth, the yoke, compared to the HOTAS. The ability to control the aircraft smoothly is massively improved, and even when I'm coming in for descent and I'm trying to juggle the nose and the pitch, I'm finding everything to be much more intuitive, much smoother than I ever did with the HOTAS. That might be a me problem, but so far I love this thing. Let's jump in to the simulator and go for a bit of a test drive so I can share some more thoughts as I first get this thing out and going. Alright, so jumping into the aircraft. This is free flight mode, so there's no part where I'm starting the aircraft up. You can see a couple of things straight away though. My landing gear was left in an up position, so let's put that down. That gets rid of one of the warnings. Luckily, it didn't just retract the landing gear. I don't know if planes are even capable of that. In terms of these buttons here, these 7 buttons, I have the engine set to on, so that it doesn't just get shut down the moment we start. And I've got the parking brakes on. There's 2 warning lights flashing on the heads-up display there, you can see. So the first is that the pitot heat is off, so we can turn that on. We map that to this button, so that works. The next one is the parking brake. So if I take the parking brake off, that goes away. So we should be basically all set. Now, according to the instructions for a single engine aircraft, you use these 2 throttles. I don't know what this red one's for. I really don't. I assume it's not mapped to anything because the Vision Jet itself, if you look down, and I've still got my Tobii disabled, so I've got to do this manually with the mouse. But you can see it's just a throttle here. So if we crank this up, nothing happens. I think that's because in all my tests playing with the Tobii, it's been this left mode. In all my tests playing with the Cirrus Vision Jet on this leftmost throttle quadrant, throttle 1 is the one that does our engine. Yeah, you can hear the engine respond straight away. So our brake is off. Our flaps are at 50%. Let's go. Let's take this for a spin. Oops, too much throttle there. It's interesting, I'm not at 100%, but you can see I kind of pushed it up to. I guess this is going to be a bit of a sweet spot, but I should be paying more attention, I think, to what the aircraft is doing. 91%. The engine's pulling up. Tracked our landing gear. Landing gear, we just heard it go in. Now, one thing that's interesting is I'm having to push on my yoke straight away. Like, I feel like the trim's off. Alright, so we're above the cloud layer a little bit.
Did you copy?
You can kind of, the responsiveness of the yoke, it feels really good for like making measured control turns and not having to kind of fight it a little bit like you did with the HOTAS, you know. So I feel like this is going to be a much smoother way to fly the aircraft. I'm really excited to try and do this. Let's take a look at the autopilot here real quick.
Beechcraft 8 Sierra Alpha, did you copy?
So if I hit the autopilot, and now if I hit the altitude button,
Addison Tower, Beechcraft November Tree 58 Sierra Alpha.
it's put us in a hold at our current altitude, which is 8,900 feet, and you can kind of see that on the heads-up display there. So now the aircraft's held steady. Now, if I just wanted to fly heading mode, and I just push it, one thing you would generally have on the most of the in-game controls is the ability to set heading mode to go in the direction that you're currently facing. Right now I'm flying heading 208, but my heading mode is actually configured still to, I'm not sure what direction it is, but it looks like it's north. Looks like it's still set to straight north. So if I hit heading mode, my plane's going to bank automatically straight away over to the to heading 0 like this. Because I can't, there isn't like an easy way to just set it to be that. Of course, it's easy enough to adjust that. I can turn this dial on the left to heading, and now I can just turn the, and we can see as I turn this, the blue dial comes around counterclockwise, and now if I bring it up here to match where I'm at, the plane level's out. So it's not a big deal. It just means that you can't just like jump in and out of heading mode and quickly knock that button to do that, which is something that maybe that's a bad habit, but something that I've been lazily doing. This is going to force me to be a bit more conscious about jumping in and out of heading mode, which is fine. If I go back, set this up to altitude, set this up to 10,000 on the display. Oh, it's 10,100, 10,000.
Taxi jet 560 2600 to land.
The next notch down to the left
Jet
is
320,
vertical
turn next
speed.
taxiway.
Okay, vertical speed.
Taxi
Configure
jet
my vertical
560,
speed
Addison
to
Tower. Airport is currently IFR. Request denied.
1,000 feet a second. We can watch the aircraft automatically move. And so now we're locked in at 10,000 feet. The heading mode is locked in, and we're just going to keep flying in this direction. Now, one thing I do love about this is, again, as I said before, is having these buttons right here, where I can just kind of glance at them, and I don't have to take my eyes away from everything. If I'm using these, and I've got to do this with the mouse, this is where the autopilot is on the Vision Jet, right? So anytime if like I got an instruction to go up to, 18,000 feet, now I'm scrolling this wheel, right? And I'm doing this, and it takes me a second. And then meanwhile my concentration's been away from everything else. I no longer have to have that. I'll just have the, just set this on altitude, and just start doing the dial here, and I can see it adjust on the display. So I'm super excited to have this, and I feel like all of these controls are working really well. So I'm just going to troubleshoot the Tobii, figure out why it's not going, and then I'm ready for some flights and ready to really put this thing through its paces. Well, that's a wrap on that one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. If you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button. And remember, I'm not actually a pilot. I'm just a dumbass with a flight simulator. Catch you on the next one.